So, Kingdom Come Deliverance was released back in February of 2018 by the developer Warhorse Studios. It was buggy,
It's a turducken.
the environment would pop in pretty regularly,
Ah!
that is when it bothered to pop in at all,
Well, what? Oh, Jesus.
but despite all that, I loved it. There was no hand-holding, the combat was unique, the story was compelling, and ever since, we've all been waiting to hear when Warhorse will be releasing the follow-up title.
Well, we're waiting.
While there have been signs everywhere the Warhorse team is working on a new project, what they haven't told us is when we can expect this to be released. Even though it's one of my all-time favorite games, having almost 2,000 hours on my PlayStation 5 alone, I can admit it's far from perfect. So here are my top 6 lists of things that I want, and one thing I don't, from Kingdom Come Deliverance 2. Beware, as there is a massive spoiler warning here. To talk about a sequel, kinda have to talk about where the last game ended off, so if you haven't finished the main quest line, pause the video right here, go finish it, then come back and watch the rest of the video. Make sure you like, comment, subscribe, as it helps the channel out when you do. Let's get into this list. Starting off with number 6, Gear Loadout Tabs. I'm sure this has happened to everyone that's ever played this game at least once, if not more. You have a bunch of gear in your chest that you're ready to sell, so you take everything out and tab over to put back items you want to keep. Then you walk over to the merchants and start hitting sell like a maniac, not realizing you just sold one of your best items. You make the sale feeling good about all that new gold you just got. Go back to your chest to pick up all the gear you saved, put it all on, and realize you just sold your best leg plate. You quickly run back over to the merchant only to realize he wants you to pay 6 times what he paid you for it. Or even worse, you don't realize it's missing for a couple of in-game days, and by the time you do, the item is gone forever. So how can Warhorse fix this? Well, in games like Assassin's Creed Odyssey, you had custom gear loadout tabs which will let you select certain loadouts with symbols associated with how that gear was meant to be used. While I don't think Kingdom Come Deliverance 2 can use the exact same system, I'd like to see tabs added to your stored chests that have specific names with which gear and loadouts you want to store there. Having multiple tabs, let's say one for combat, one for stealth, and one for gear you have no use for and want to sell, would make it easier to store all black silent gear in one tab, your strongest weapons and armor in another, and a completely separate tab for gear you want to sell so you don't end up selling your best pieces. In my opinion, I think this can make a big difference for anyone that has multiple sets of gear and wants to sort through it quickly. Moving on to number 5, improvements to the economy system. There's no shortage of ways to make money in Kingdom Come. For completing quests, you get rewarded with groschen, going hunting, making potions, selling loot from fallen enemies, or just good old-fashioned stealing. Now, I do love that there's a haggling system in place to get better deals on buying or selling items, and when you do sell the gear to the merchant, their overall groshens increase as a result of selling off that gear the next time you go to visit them. The issue here is that there's nothing to actually do with the groschen once you have it. This becomes a bit of a letdown in the mid to late game because there really isn't anything else you need. Most of the best weapons and armor can be looted from bandits, stolen from shops, or found in treasure maps. To help solve the issue, I think there should be a system where Henry can hire mercenaries to follow him around, or be able to have a small detachment of troops while paying them a daily wage, kinda like in Mount & Blade Bannerlord. Notice how in this example, I have almost 130,000 in gold, but between troop wages and expenses costing me almost 10,000 gold a day, I'm incentivized to either have a large collection of wealth, or continuously find ways of making money just to be able to afford them. On top of this, I'd like the ability to purchase and customize houses or estates like you're able to in Skyrim. It would be pretty cool to see different designs and decorations to make each space truly your own. In the DLC From the Ashes, it gave us the chance to rebuild Privislevitz, choosing different buildings, and expanding the destroyed village, and I would like to see that expanded upon. While in the first game, Henry starts as a commoner, so it makes sense he might not be allowed to purchase houses. The best you can do is buy rooms in a tavern. However, as we find out, he's actually a nobleman's son, so it would make sense he has the ability to have his own house, or maybe even a small village or a castle. I'm not by any means saying this will completely fix the problem. There will always be ways to make more money than we know what to do with in video games, but this at least gives us something to spend our money on outside of booze and food. While on the subject of finding ways to spend money, that brings me to number 4, customizable weapons and armor. The armor and weapon slots can take a little bit of getting used to when first playing the game. There's a lot of different slots, you have to layer on top of one another to work effectively. Starting off, you have your base layer of clothing, then putting padding on top of that, finally finishing off with chainmail and plate armor with additional padding on top of that. But all these pieces can start to feel a little stale after a couple of playthroughs. Each of the nobles that are seen beside you through the battles have one-off pieces that can't be acquired anywhere in the game outside of mods. So Radzig has a riveted chest piece when he's not in battle, and a custom headpiece specific only to him when he is. Sir Divish has an entire suit of armor specific for him, and I think it's one of the best looking pieces in the entire game. The point is, these suits are all suited and tailored specifically for them. Being able to add custom designs, etchings, trim pieces, or colors, I feel would add quite a bit of depth. Games like Ghost of Tsushima implemented a mechanic that allows you to keep the same armor or weapon, but just simply change the color or the style of that piece, and it just worked. Shout out to Todd Howard there. Now, I'm going to say something controversial that many might not agree with, but bear with me. I don't want a crafting system.
What? Bro, what are you talking about, man?
I know, let me explain. Firstly, most of the time these are implemented in games, it breaks them in some sort of way, being the fastest way of making money in Bannerlord, and whatever this is in Skyrim.
What the fuck?
But really, the issue here is it wouldn't fit this kind of game. You see, being a blacksmith, crafting weapons and armor is a full-time profession, not something that was done on the side around questing and adventuring. Making minor repairs to weapons and armor is believable, but to craft a full suit of armor or a weapon from scratch, I don't think is very feasible. Just think back to how this whole story started. When Radzig wanted a sword commissioned, he didn't craft it himself. He went to his local blacksmith, had it commissioned for him, and even the blacksmith didn't make all the pieces himself. The pommel and the crossguard were made in Sasau. I think in Kingdom Come Deliverance 2, for a hefty price, Henry should have the option to go to his local armor or swordsmith and commission a one-off piece, choosing different designs, pieces, and after a couple of in-game days, be able to go back and get his things. This would make each playthrough feel unique, give the player options on how to spend money while staying true to the core gameplay.
Have you forged the sword?
No, I told you to come later.
That's just how I feel about it. Let me know what you think down in the comments. Moving on to number 3, battle and quest variety. There is a fair bit of freedom to complete quests in different ways in the early parts of the game, but I feel it's lacking in the big battles or the late game quests. Some examples of this, going back to Bernard to deal with the bandits that are hunting for Ginger, will result in him sending a small detachment of men to take care of the bandits.
No, I found those bandits. They want to kill Ginger.
We'll see about that.
Bugger!
You're in the wrong place at the wrong time.
If you choose not to drink with Father Godwin, it will lead you to Rattay to discover Reiki and Limpy Lubosh's connection through the bailiff.
Godwin won't tell me who Lubosh's cronies were.
He once boasted to me that he had a record in Rattay. Mention of some Anton from Vlashim and Hinek, known as Riki, from Ledechko.
Just to name a few. But each one of the large battles you take part in play out in the same way no matter what build your character is. At one point during the raid of Rannoch, Captain Robard is asked to take a small detachment of men around the back for a surprise attack on the bandits.
Robard will take 10 men and sneak to the rear of the fortifications. There's an entry point, but you must remain hidden. At that point, Robard and his squad will strike from the rear.
But why not offer the option to the player if they would like to go? This would add some depth to the player being able to see different parts of the battle, and it would add battle replayability. Or during the monastery questline, instead of joining with the monastery and finding out who Pius is from within, give us the chance to break into the abbot's quarters, perhaps investigate new recruits through a ledger, and then assassinate them in the night. I felt like one of the truly unique things about the game was the ability to think of new ways of solving problems, and hopefully Kingdom Come Deliverance 2 will continue the trend of open-ended quests throughout and expand on options in the large-scale battles. Moving on to number 2, better hunting mechanics. This one is a minor one, but for me, it's pretty big. I love hunting and gathering materials in video games, and it pains me to say Kingdom Come Deliverance has some of the worst hunting mechanics ever seen in a game. The AI of the animals is so bad, you can endlessly shoot at the animals after missing them as long as your character doesn't move. Red Dead Redemption 2 had one of the best examples of hunting mechanics I've ever seen in a game. You have to keep an eye on the wind, your movement, the caliber of rifle used for hunting different game, then depending on where the animal was shot would determine if it would kill the animal or simply wound it. And if you missed, the animal will bolt and you would have to track it right back down again. I'm not asking for the system to be that extreme, but surely a happy medium can be achieved here. Forget running away from the arrows that whiz right by them. The animals in Kingdom Come don't even move after being hit half the time. This boar was shot 7 times and it barely moved 20 feet from the first place I shot it. The part that's even more upsetting about this is the NPCs have been coded to react. Most of the time just pointing a knocked arrow in the direction of a citizen makes them call the guards. While firing arrows at bandits that miss, they investigate where the arrow came from.
Over here! Where is everyone? Quick!
I'm just hoping that in Kingdom Come Deliverance 2, some of that intelligence will be coded into the animals so we don't get situations like this.
The game is broken!
And finally, at number 1, combat system refinement. You may have thought I was going to say texture pop-in or rendering would be the biggest problem, but Warhorse has fixed most of the game-breaking bugs associated with this. I also think the new game will be optimized for current-gen consoles and PCs, so hopefully this won't be an issue. However, I do think there's several things that need to be changed within the combat system. While it's unique, it's still very common for regular or master strikes to not register hitting an opponent. It's not as bad in single enemy encounters, but each time you face more than one, it's inevitable that a strike won't register despite going through the animation or clearly hitting the opponent. While on the subject of master strikes, I think there should be a different system in place for countering opponents that's more skill and timing based rather than a single button press. Maybe something like the ability to perform a master strike only if you match your sword movement to your opponent or only after blocking 3 or more strikes in a row. To me, it felt like the combat was challenging at the start and felt rewarding to win an encounter. But after learning the Master Strike, the formula became to back up, wait for the enemy to attack, perform the Master Strike, and then rinse and repeat to victory. Next, while I'm okay with the human dogs being implemented, the hitboxes on them definitely need to be improved. You can tell the combat was designed from the ground up to be human against human, and each dog you encounter painfully reminds you of that. But the biggest omission of all is the lack of any mounted enemy units. The humans were renowned for their mounted archery skills, and yet we never see them on any mounts outside of the opening scene. The ride from Skalitz to Talmberg while being pursued by the humans on horses was nail-biting and intense, and I just wish there was more instances this was used in the game. I think this would add variety, difficulty, and depth to combat encounters, potentially turning mundane ambushes into exhilarating battles for your life with mounted human archers circling around and raining arrows down upon you. Hopefully, this is something we can see in the sequel. And that's going to do it for my list of things I want to see in Kingdom Come Deliverance 2. Is there something I missed that you'd like to see in the follow-up game? Let me know down in the comments. If you enjoyed the video, please like, share, subscribe, and turn on the notification bell to be notified whenever I post. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye-bye!